Be careful. What's up, guys? Duncan the Highlander here. My little baby. Taking him for a little walk / run through the woods. So I've had like 2 fights since the time that we've chit-chatted. I'm probably going to do a little snippet, maybe during this. I'll probably have a little highlight reel going of the fight to get you guys, you can't see my finger, maybe over here, some shit. I don't know where it'll be. Get you guys all hyped up so you can watch my first fight where I won the NEF 170 amateur title, basically making me the champion for the state of Maine. And then, because that's the only promotion in the state. And that was against Carlton Charles in June. And I won that via 4th round rear naked choke. And then, more recently, last Friday, I fought for Combat Zone, which is the same promotion in which I fought Faye Sensei. And in that promotion, I fought for the 170 amateur title as well. And I won that, making me the champion of Combat Zone at 170 pounds. So, those are like the basic things in my little vlog life. Of course, we've got next week, we've got Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. I mean, I could go into a big thing saying the same things that everybody already knows. Everyone's talking about whether it's going to be a long fight, short fight. Everyone's talking about whether Khabib has the wrestling to take, well, not that, but whether Khabib's striking can survive the time that it needs to break the distance, or whether Conor's wrestling is going to be good enough to keep him standing. I don't know. It's one of those crazy fights I'm excited to watch. But yeah, and hoping maybe I just got a call out by the dude I fought. His coach just called me out. Toronto. Maybe I'll fight his coach in November. You know what? Instead of doing what everybody else is doing and talking about Khabib's wrestling and Conor McGregor striking, maybe I should take a second to talk about a fight that no one's even talking about. Like the return of Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Pettis. Now, this could be a close fight. Anthony Pettis, if this was the Anthony Pettis that was on the Wheaties box, this would be a very interesting fight. But I'm still not convinced that Anthony Pettis is still alive, that he still walks this earth amongst us. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like this is going to be a Tony Ferguson mopping, one-sided destruction. But if Anthony Pettis can put on a good performance against Tony Ferguson, that's going to say something to me. I mean, obviously, he's not doing it for me, but I feel like that's something that should be spoken about. That's something that should be in the media. That's something that should be... I mean, this guy was on the Wheaties box. This guy was supposed to be Conor McGregor. We thought that he was the biggest star that you could get, you know what I mean, before Conor McGregor came about, and he's not even on a Wheaties box. But, it's crazy. I don't know. There's just so much that could go on with that fight. Even Tony Ferguson, the way he strikes, he likes to extend himself a lot. Robin Black talks about that a lot. He likes to overextend himself, but in using that, he likes to extend his hips all the way through, which gives him some extra range so he can punch from a little further distance than most people expect. He can kind of hit people with punches from a distance that most people would expect kicks to be coming from. But then you've got Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis kicks at a whole another level than most people. But Tony Ferguson, he's not going to have the same kicking game as Anthony Pettis, but he has a very unique movement style. And he's very pressure oriented, but he's not a basic pressure fighter. He uses a lot of different movement patterns to make people confused. He switches his feet a lot, and he comes in on different angles. And while doing that, he has his hands low, which invites you to come in, and he has a strong chin. He takes shots, but he has his hands low, which invites you to come in. While doing that, he's able to he extends his hips, kind of like he's running in, which gives him a lot of extra distance, because he's stepping through his stance, and he's giving himself an extra foot, or I don't know, 6 inches, but it's a lot. And that allows him to just cover more ground in a way that people don't expect. And I think that just makes this fight against Anthony Pettis, if this is, let's say, just talking about Anthony Pettis of old, if Anthony Pettis shows up, that makes this fight super interesting. Because Anthony Pettis, he is, the master of the outside game. I mean, obviously, somebody else that he fought, which is very similar, I guess, would be Edson Barbosa. They both had a fight against Edson Barbosa, but this was when Anthony Pettis wasn't Anthony Pettis, which is kind of like, I mean, this is before now, so I don't know how much Anthony Pettis is there right now, but they both had a fight against Edson Barbosa, and Edson Barbosa is an outside striker, similar to Anthony Pettis, but at the same time, he's very different than Anthony Pettis. Just because they're both Taekwondo black belts, they don't use the same game at all. Edson Barbosa likes to use a lot more of his front leg switch kick. He likes to use a lot of, he fights from a close stance a lot, meaning that he doesn't switch his stance as much, number one, and he likes to fight from a close stance. So he likes to stay, like if you're orthodox, he'll stay orthodox. I don't really know if he even switches his stance, so that might be some bullshit. I think he just fights from an orthodox stance most of the time. Whereas Anthony Pettis, he likes to fight from an open stance. So if you're southpaw, he'll fight orthodox. If you're orthodox, he'll fight southpaw, because he's looking for those rear power shots. One of the things that makes this interesting is that the body shot would be there all day against Tony Ferguson, because he's the way he switches his stance and such. It's a really interesting fight. Tony Ferguson, though, he's got that wrestling, which is a factor that Anthony Pettis doesn't have on him. He's got wrestling and he's got great jiu-jitsu. So doesn't Anthony Pettis, but Tony Ferguson also has got really great jiu-jitsu. So that's an interesting fight.